Everyone, and welcome back to the Joey's Movie Blog podcast. I am your host, Joey Strandberg, and we are here to talk about Last of Us HBO episode 8. And what an episode this was! I am joined by my co host, Frederick Lopez. How are you?
I'm doing great. We don't have technical difficulties, and you don't have to replace me with Liam Hemsworth, so we're good. We're good. So yeah, this was an incredible episode. This show has been stellar so far. Probably is going to go down in history as one of the best, if not the best, video game adaptation. Like this is going to be studied as what to do in an adaptation from now on when it comes to video games on TV or film.
Now, episode 8 adapts my absolute favorite section from the video game. In the video game, we get to play as Ellie as we come across the town of David. And in the video games, David is played by Nolan North, who is best known as Nathan Drake. And then in the show here, he is played by Scott Shepard.
Yeah, he played a creepy David, and I was trying to figure out where I saw him before. He played Jean Grey's father on the Dark Phoenix X-Men film
Oh,
before this.
really?
Yeah, and he had some other like supporting roles, but like he portrayed a extremely creepy, demented version of David. I mean, it's pretty much like the video game, and they go a little bit further in some ways too.
Yeah.
He did a fantastic job in this, and I like this. With the different actors that they've had on this show, each one has kind of had a moment to shine with each arc, with each chapter, and the performances all around the board and the writing have been superb. I've said this earlier. I think this is going to be a show that's going to be nominated for writing and performances across the board.
Yeah, it's definitely going to get that. And not only do we get to meet Scott Shepard as David, we get to meet Troy Baker, who, if you played PlayStation games, you may have heard his voice many places, but his best known role is Joel in the video game. And here he plays James, David's right hand man, and he did an incredible job in this episode.
He really did. I would love to see him in more live action roles. There was a lot of emotion that he conveyed through his eyes. That's like the sign of a great actor. And it was also strange hearing him in his like normal voice. We've heard him as like Joker, we've heard him as Batman, we've heard him as Nathan Drake's brother and Joel. So many voices throughout video games that it's just kind of like crazy to see a face and the real voice behind all those characters. And that's a cool little nod. And of course, the original Ellie will be on the show next week in a flashback as
Yep.
Ellie's mother.
Yeah.
So I love the little nods and how they gotten people to play different characters. That's a great Easter egg, but it's also a cool opportunity to see these people we all know play different roles or see them in a different light. And I absolutely love the kind of like chemistry between James and David, as his right hand man. Just like, should we trust this person? Should we just take care of Ellie? Like, it's kind of cool seeing that dynamic between them. And yeah, everybody's just really out there to survive in this world, and it's grim. And I love that we get to see different like people in this apocalypse. We saw how Tommy's doing. We saw how Bill and Frank were doing. We saw how the Kansas City Hunters in this incarnation. It's cool seeing different areas and climates and different types of people from all walks of life and how they're surviving in this world. And yeah, it was cool seeing him in live action. He should definitely do more. But we basically start right where the last one left off. Of Ellie trying to save Joel,
Yeah.
and he's kind of like stabilized at this point, but he's like out of it at the beginning.
Yeah, his wound is infected and it's just really, really bad. But we actually open with the uh David reading the book of Revelations to his group, and it's the the Penelope, I can't speak, the second to last chapter of the Bible, which is fitting since this is unfortunately the second to last episode. Uh, but it's really interesting to see David kind of enhanced and see how he's running his group.
I did like that how they enhanced and explored that a bit more, and it's also more disturbing. We're not going to get to it yet, but like if you know the outcome of what's going to happen, seeing how they have meal plans and stuff, like seeing how they deal with that, it was kind of more disturbing to me seeing this like opening and how his group functions. I was just like, oh god, are they going to still go the route they went into the video game? And just like, what are they eating? You know, so like it got me thinking so many things, and I love this cold open and even like his condolences. He's talking to the daughter of the guy Joel killed a couple of episodes back,
Yeah.
and that was great. But then David's just really creepy in this version. Like
Yeah.
he was terrifying in the video game, but they definitely add more of that like predator element in this character in this live action one. Like he's just a creep. And it's crazy because he's so charismatic in some way of like if you didn't know any better, you could trust this man, and he's a believer in faith and God and everything happening for a reason. And there's just something beneath the surface. It's like probably more dangerous. It's like maybe you shouldn't trust him. And that's just a dangerous thing to have. Somebody who can be lethal and threatening, but then still be kind of charismatic if you didn't know any better, you know?
Yeah. And they he's talking to James about their rations and all that, and then uh they go out deer hunting, and then we cut to Elliot looking at Joel's wound, trying to feed him, but like Joel is running a fever due to his wound and everything, and she decides to go hunting because they're out of food as well.
Yeah, I love that little introduction. It's like a nice slow pace right before the action gets started. And it's cool just seeing her collect up snow, put into a bucket to feed the horse, you know?
Yeah.
And I just love how they recreated this town. It's just kind of crazy. Again, so many settings in this show, seeing how they were in the video game and then seeing these moments and places come to life is a little bit surreal. And we get more of that snowy climate. I love this. Her going out and learning basically trying to hunt deer and stuff, but it's also like incorporating the advice Joel was given to her a couple of episodes back about how to shoot and hunt and stuff. So she's like going after them. And I think one of the deers like doesn't it get away, and then that's how she ends up meeting Dave and James, I think.
Yeah, she manages to shoot the deer, but it runs away before she can get to it, and then the deer dies a few somewhere in between where James and David are,
Yeah.
and then it's so exciting getting to see these moments recreated where it and with like in live action, it just feels so surreal. Like we even get to see the rabbit that the yeah, the rabbit that was in the game, that in the game Ellie shoots, but in this she misses and then trips.
It was a nice little touch. I love that. And it was great seeing how she meets David and James, and then also her kind of fear, you know, because she's just like they said, we can split like the deer, some of the meat or whatever. We have a large group, and it's like I have a large group as well. And like you
Yeah.
see Ellie just trying to be strong and tough in this moment, and it's such a great little moment. And Bella Ramsey's acting, I mean, she knocked out of the park with this episode. But
Oh yeah.
I love how David's like willing to come to agreement, and she's like, "I'll trade you something for it," you know. And she's like, "Do you have medicine?" And that's what's going to end up being the medicine that helps Joel. But I love it too because James is like trying to see if David's going to speak to him in code. And it's like, this isn't code, James. Just go
Yeah.
get it, you know? And oh man. like I said, it's a great moment because like at first glance, and I envy people who don't play the video game because like it would have been great seeing all the revelations and stuff we know already as players of the video game. Seeing this because it's like it's almost too good to be true, you know. Seeing this
Yeah.
person with this group, he seems like a kind enough man, but we get a great scene after that encounter where James goes and gets medicine in the village, and we get a great scene between David and Ellie when they're making the fire. Oh man, yeah,
Yeah, and what's neat about this scene versus the game is we get to kind of get more backstory with David. Like, he he was like a math teacher before the apocalypse, and then he found God after his quarantine zone fell.
went from teacher to preacher, as they put it.
Yeah, and
I love
then
that.
so we get to hear a bit more about him, and then we get the infamous scene where he tells Ellie about the crazy man traveling with a little girl.
I love that moment, and he's always talking about the Bible as like things happen for a reason, and Ellie's like, "Come on!" And she's like, "You don't believe me? I'll tell you. I'll prove it to you." And he talks about that attack, and then like an old man with a little girl, and in that moment, oh my god! I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but still, just Bella Ramsey's acting there of that realization, and then David just having the power there in that moment. I mean, he's just so terrifying. It's just like already in this first scene, it's like a friendly conversation, and then it's going to go into a completely different direction. Oh,
Yeah.
then James like comes back and he's like ready to pop a bullet into Ellie's head, and David's like, wait, don't do anything.
Yeah, he's just like, give her the medicine, and he like throws the medicine, and then Ellie just runs off, and then she gives the medicine to Joel, and then there's just this little cute moment where the two rest together.
I love that. It's great little moments like that and nuances that make this show. And it was also great seeing Ellie not knowing what to do with the show. I was like, Joel, what the hell do I do? And then she's like, okay, I'm just going to stick him where the wound is and just
Yeah.
give him the antibiotics, penicillin. And it's after that we're led to probably one of the most like intense moments where they come back with some of the meat to the village, David and James. And then it's just like, you may have heard it's true. We found the people who killed some of our men. We're gonna hunt them in the morning, but there's that one scene where he hits the guy's daughter, the girl we saw at the beginning of the
Oh
episode,
yeah.
and just smacks her to the ground. It's just like, oh my god, this guy is just he's unhinged. And
Yeah.
we slowly get to see him become more and more unhinged throughout like the story of this episode. But I love seeing that explored more and more of the dynamics of his village because that's something that they didn't really. I mean, we saw the village and everything in these encounters in the game, but they didn't show like some of these little scenes. You get to see more explanation for some of the stuff, and I don't know. He's just creepy. He's a creepy guy.
Yeah, and I also love it when they're making the dinner, and that one guy comes in with chopped meat claiming it's venison, and I'm just thinking like that's definitely not venison.
I know. I was just like, oh my god. And then rewatching it, James has this look like looking at the meat, and then he's just like eating, and he's just like wondering, what is this? And knowing the truth. And I envy people who haven't played the video game, like that revelation. Because I was just like thinking, man, I was feeling kind of sick, knowing where this could go, where it's probably going to go, and just like, oh man.
Yeah, Troy Baker plays James with nice nuance where you could tell he doesn't like any of what David is doing.
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention, like during their conversation, he also like says, I need to know you're with me or you're loyal to me. It's like, of course, David, of course. And even then he's
Yeah.
kind of already having like reservations about this whole arrangement and their village and the leadership in it. And that was a nice little moment before we get to some of the major action set pieces of the video game the next morning with them going after and hunting down Ellie. They're trying to track her basically to where she went, where Joel is. And
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a great sequence, and seeing these moments added in here. I don't know. I love that. I love her finding out that David and his men are there, and they're just walking, you know, and they're armed, and you get that scene where she finds like a kitchen knife or something, or gives Joel a knife, and he's still kind of out of it. He's not fully awake yet, but he's getting like a little bit better during this moment, and she figures like, hey, they can't find us here. If the people come over, you're gonna have to stab them or wake up. So she like basically barricades the door with like one of the shelving, like the shelves or like the like kitchen shelves. And she gets a horse, and she's just basically getting out of the house to draw the attention away from Joel, like in the video game. And I love Bella Ramsey just like cursing at them and then shooting. And
Yeah.
you get that it's like, come here, mother effers, or something. She's like shooting. And you get that famous moment from the video game of the horse. Like they actually went
The
there.
horse.
No real
Yeah.
horses were harmed during the production of this show, okay? Like
Yeah, they shot the horse, and instead of just con- continuing the action scene, they, like in the game, this is kind of where the uh scene, just the action ends, where Ellie has just fallen off the horse, and then everyone else wants James to just kill her, and then David shoots his gun up in the air, and uh, just instructs James to come with him, and then while the others legit search for Joel.
yeah, that was that horse when she fell off the horse, that hurt me. I was like, I felt that. I was like,
Yeah.
damn. Just poor Horace and poor Ellie. And it was great seeing that, and I do like a little bit of the changes here, and it still follows a story, and that's where we get to some of the more exciting parts that are adapted with Joel finally waking up after a while. But it's not until there's like still some men searching around. They're going basically door to door in this like little neighborhood, and they're trying to find out like where he might be hidden at. And that's where we get to, like one of the long bearded men. He's just there, and he's like, "Hey, that's odd. Why is this giant like kitchen drawer thing in front of this door to like the basement?"
Yeah, and
And
then Joel just stabs him in the neck.
that was wonderful. I love that. It's such
Yeah.
a tense scene, and Joel is a brutal man. We all know there's gonna be consequences for what he does, but I love him coming out of it because for the past couple of episodes, he's been out of it, much like in the video game. And this is a moment where he's just like, you're going to kind of see a little bit of Joel. And we've seen Joel, but we're going to see him use tactics and methods that maybe Bill and Frank and Tess were familiar with in the past, and that his brother Tommy were familiar with, but we haven't fully seen yet.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this wonderful. And the rest of this, despite the only thing they cut out, which I don't mind too much, is something kind of, I mean, it's big but it's small, is like when they have to fight the clickers or creatures, like there's the bloater where Dave and
Yeah.
Ellie have to work together, but we don't need any of
Yeah.
that.
We need, I don't want the show to just be a bunch of action scenes.
No, because then I mean, I know people. There's a thing to say in this about like, well, there might be a larger threat, like we could have more threat. And while I agree with that, then you also become to like Walking Dead, right? Where like Walking Dead has a lot of creatures, but after a while, you kind of become numb to it to where they're almost non-existent. And here, I
Yeah.
kind of like that there's a human threat. It's not just the clickers. It's like humanity is something you have to worry about, and people, and in particular, this David.
Yeah. Also, it's like, if you have our characters just take out entire hordes of infected, it's like they would just become invisible after a while.
Yeah, and then you get frustrated when something small takes them down because it has to happen in the story. Where it's like I can understand like what people are saying, but like those mechanics are there to get us from point A to point B in a video game. But in a story, I thought this followed this particular part of the game very closely, and we get to see that with these next couple of sequences here. We get to see Ellie wake up and she's like imprisoned, and like this
Yeah,
like with bars and like almost looks like a kennel thing, like a jail, like almost, but it's like behind like a I think it's behind the steakhouse, isn't it? Or and this one is like
yeah.
they put in
It,
one building in this one.
it's like it's like the kitchen place that they do all the Bible readings and eat during.
Yeah. And this, it was so crazy. Like IGN.com, for people who are watching this out there, you can check it out. Like they did a scene by scene comparison. And it's just like, it was weird. It was almost like seeing like a theater class when they do like scene recreations of movies. It's just, it's like surreal, like seeing the same story in the same way, presented with the same dialogue almost. And this is just a little bit more intense than the video game in some ways. But yeah, Bella Ramsey's acting here. And then that scene with David, and we kind of get that with it cut to like David's men trying to search for Joel.
Yeah, and so Joel finds two of the men, and we get the infamous interrogation scene.
I love that.
Yeah,
Eh,
it's like Joel is like stabbing one of them in the leg to get the information, and then puts the knife in his mouth and is like, "Yeah, you better point to the location, or it's going to be." And your buddy better point to the same one, and then Joel just kills him anyway, and then just goes, "It's all right, I believe him," and then kills the other one. It's awesome to see how they translated it.
I love it. It's more brutal, even to the point where he's speaking. Because in the game, it's like, "I'll tear off your knee" or something. This one's like, "I tear off your effing kneecap." And you see him like moving the knife and like his kneecap, and it was like, oh. Then he just like stabs the guy instead of strangling him. But I love it too because like in the game, you got to see the guy's head kind of bash sideways real quick. This, I don't know, it had more effect by you not seeing that right away and just saying, "I believe him," and then whoosh, hitting and then going to
Yeah,
black like that. Just I felt that a lot more, and it just seemed more vicious this time around. But it was a great translation to what they did in the video game. And it was also nice because like now Joel's like awake. It's like good. He's finally like feeling better. Now he's trying to find Ellie and where they're at, you know. So
yeah,
I love how they translated that small section. And while it would have been cool if you could see like, okay, there's like a crazy blizzard, him fighting and being low on ammo. They almost didn't need it in this particular moment. They still had him trying to go through the winter. It was like severe weather. And I just love the encounter that Ellie and David have, that conversation with each other. And this is where he really shows his true intentions and colors. And he is just a downright creep. Like this scene was so unsettling. And in some ways, bless you, in
thank
some
you.
ways, more than the video game. You know, still the same dialogue, but I just felt like he was more predatory here towards Ellie.
Yeah, we get the whole thing where like we even get to see like how he pretty much became a cannibal because of the uh it's like the whole violence thing about using and comparing it to cordyceps and how it thrives on violence and spreads because of violence. And then the whole thing where like you could tell like he's trying to take Ellie as his wife. It's just
It's
ugh.
just it's disturbing, and then before that, she, like, notices, like, a piece of somebody's ear on the floor. Like, instead of him, like, cutting up body parts, like, in the game, you get to see the ear, and for some reason, less is more in this scene. Oh, and it's just it's just so disturbing, and I love Bella Ramsey's acting in this scene here, and he was just creepy, man. Even like just grab my hand, just being like all caressing her hand, and for a while she's kind of like agreeing to it, and then we get that famous moment from the video game where she just basically breaks his fingers and tries to steal the keys, just like in the video game.
Ellie is the girl that broke your fucking finger.
I love
And
that. He's like, well, how am I supposed to
yeah,
explain this to the group? I love like that moment of acting. Like she shows so much range here. I loved her in the previous episodes, but if anybody by a long shot still has a doubt about Bella Ramsey as Ellie, put that to rest after this episode. Like, this is perfect casting. Not only her chemistry with Joel, but like just I actually cannot wait to see until she goes into Last of Us Part Two. Ellie, I'm kind of
Oh,
actually kind of scared a bit because like this
she
is Last of Us
has.
One.
There's so much great material to work with, and
You even have
uh,
that one frame in this where after David leaves, you see her just like breathing and just kind of upset, and it almost looks like the Last of Us Part Two cover in a way. I've seen some scene comparisons.
yeah,
I'm like, I just see a little bit of that Ellie and her already, and
I
oh,
I also love the what is it you said? Tiny pieces.
oh yeah, oh.
Yeah,
That was such a terrific scene there and just equally creepy. Like David really freaked me out in this. Like he was scaring the game, but Scott Shepherd just added a whole other layer. And that's also to the writing too, writing and performance wise. Like, oh my God. I was just like, oh, this is unsettling. And I just really want him to get his. I really want justice to find him in many ways.
yeah,
And he just has like a God complex almost of like, people are sheep, but I need an equal and all this. And not shortly after that, we get like Joel, we get to see a little bit of like scenery from the game where he's just like trying to navigate to the location. And that's where we get to the scene where he goes into like one of the locations. And it's more graphic here where he sees the dead bodies that they for the mills. That was
yeah.
such a creepy, disturbing scene. I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, and he's just like, and he realizes what he's got himself into, and then he sees the dead horse, and
Oh,
it's just, it's it's like he realizes like, crap, these people are fucking messed up,
it's like, I
and
need to find Ellie. It's like pretty much is like, where are you, Ellie? I need to find you. Like, this is not a good situation we gotten ourselves into.
yeah, and then we cut back to James and David pulling Ellie out, and then Ellie bites David, and then as soon as they get ready to chop her up, she's like, "I'm infected."
Yeah, I mean that was there's so many moments that are like scene by scene in the video game, and I love that. And it's like bullshit, this isn't real. And James like, it looks pretty fucking real to me. And yeah, the moment where David like that caught me off guard where he gets the meat clover. I thought he hit her in this version until it was like right by her face, like he just slams it down. Oh man, the sound design there just like really got me. It made me jump up. I was like, oh my God. And he said, there's no way that's real. And it's like, well, now you're going to be infected too. Everybody's going to be infected. And there's like one moment where they're like talking. It's just like the game where she finds an opportunity to get the meat clover. And poor Troy Baker as James, like he gets it right in the neck.
Yeah, yeah. Ellie kills Joel.
And I love how they did that. Like, I mean, other shows would have just had like a lot of blood and him strangle out, but it was just like, boom, hit. I'm bleeding out and I'm dead. Like it was like so immediate and with his eyes open too. I mean, oh, it's not TV, it's HBO, And
Yeah,
we get to the famous confrontation too. After that, David's had enough. She's like trying to hide, and we get that famous encounter. I love how they recreated this. Although it's crazy, just to me, in the video game, the space felt so much larger than it does in the show. But other than
yeah,
that, like I just love how they recreated that and actually have Ellie like hiding and how she started the fire. She gets like a log. Because another one, I think, was like a lantern that fell over or something in the
yeah.
game.
But
Yeah.
like here, she like throws a log at a curtain, and this is my favorite encounter in the first game where Ellie's like hiding from David in this burning restaurant trying to get the upper hand. But like David's all like taunting her like no one that gets infected stays alive, and just Scott Shepherd like go like he he just gave me the creeps in this scene, and he's like,
Yeah.
Ellie, and
It was straight up some slasher film stuff. It really was like and then it's just like nobody would be fighting for survival the way you are right now. And then his talk is like, I could be good to you, Ellie. You didn't give me a chance. I could be good. I can show you. And it's just like, oh my God, what a creep. Ellie's just like trying to find a weapon. I think she ends up getting like a kitchen knife or something by the end.
yeah,
and it's just like the video game where you have to hide. She's hiding from him and is like going around the restaurant area. Oh man, but yeah, he added a whole other layer of creepiness to David. And you get that encounter where she does kind of like go behind him and like stabs him basically, and they have a struggle. Done a little bit different, but it's still pretty accurate to the game. And even her trying to reach one of I think his weapon, uh, the the hatchet,
The
yeah, or
meat cleaver.
yeah,
Yeah,
eh,
because like he pulls it out of Troy Baker's neck, and
yeah, that was some brutal stuff too. Just like that's some like Michael Myers stuff right there. But I love that. That was close enough to the game because in the game, like Ellie's like struggling, he's like kicking her, but she's like trying to get to it under like a booth, and this one's like under a table, and it's almost identical like framing.
yeah,
But the part that really creeped me out is like when she's struggling, and he says that he enjoyed it more. He enjoys it more when there's fighting, and I was just like, oh my god, what an
yeah,
evil person. And Bella Ramsey's acting here of like you can see Ellie's fear. You can see how frightened she is, but then also fighting. And then when she does get that meat clover and hits him, it's so fulfilling. It's such a great experience because of how much of a piece of crap David is. But she just stabs him over and over. It's like the game and
yeah.
then some. Like she just keeps going and yelling, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" You see her covered with blood. That was such an intense scene, and I love how they recreated that. And I know a lot of people have been complaining about this small change, but I don't mind it so much. You still get the same dialogue. Instead of Joel going through mowing down people and then getting to the restaurant inside and then talking to her, I like this because Ellie takes care of David, survives that experience, and she's outside. You know, that restaurant's burning
Yeah.
down. And then Joel's there and she's like, get off me, like thinking it's like someone else. And it's like, it's okay, baby girl. It's okay.
Yeah, and the baby girl moment, just every time I play the
Uh,
game and now I watch the show, it gets to me. And I also just, my favorite shot of the series is the moment where Ellie is just like the blood is going on the lens, and she like slows down but then goes back into a massive rage, and it's
She acted the hell out of that scene. I was so happy she did that, but I was just like, wow.
yeah,
Like
the
many moments, like Nick Offerman before, like other actors, it just leaves you just kind of like, wow. I don't know what I experienced, but like I can't really describe it in words. It's just like, wow.
uh,
That was just wow.
I was just I was just taken aback by the uh performance by Bella, and I'm trying to remember that one line David said before he got killed, but it's like he said, I'm looking it up on IMDb, but it's like you have no idea how good I am. Don't be afraid. There's no fear in love, and the way that was like the creepiest last line I think I've heard in a while. And David's death is just the most satisfied I've been by a TV death since Ramsey Bolton.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that last line to her was almost like an "fu" line. Like they just almost just pushed Ellie even further. Of like, screw you,
Yeah,
stab
just
you to death. And
and
I know that there's no danger, but it makes sense because if you look at it in this incarnation, even though you had men, they were taken out, but also, like he described, they're almost like sheep, and this is their leader. Where I'm like, I don't think there'd be that many out there, and I love how this ends like in the video game. You know, the episode I wanted it to keep going, but it ends just like the video game with them reuniting. And of course, we're gonna get to in episode 9, the spring section of the video game.
yeah,
And oh man, I was thinking, I really hope they can like cram all the story in without it being rushed next week, but I think they can because I was looking at the game again, and there's like a lot of interactive stuff you have to do as far as exploration and getting to different points. Well, if they kind of limit that and just have the story beats like this one, I think they're able to pull it off. Honestly, do. I think
yeah. I don't think we're gonna. I mean, we're definitely not getting the infected scenes from the last section of the game, which I'm perfectly okay with because I don't need action just to enjoy a show. I
Yeah,
care more
this
about.
I mean, we've seen it, and I've mentioned this before with Uncharted. It's crazy to see a video game adaptation handled with such care, but then also recreating it scene by scene dialogue, like line by line, the way this has been done. And even though I would love to see more because of how well done it is, you don't need it. They still get the point of what the story is about. They still understand the essence of The Last of Us. And it's kind of like novel adaptations. Like I said earlier in one of our streams, sometimes there's stuff that works in a novel that may not work in a film or certain things, and that's kind of what they do here as they navigate it, but they still have pretty much the core of the story. And again, I envy people who have not played the video game because I would love to see this for the first time, like in this medium. Even though I love the video game, it would be cool being a new viewer to The Last of Us, just like I've never heard of The Last of Us. This is the first time I'm checking out this show. I don't know. It'd be crazy. It'd be like watching Star Wars again for the first time, the original trilogy or something. It's just like I want to know what that feeling's like again.
Yeah, it's just it's just been excellent, and at this point all they need to do is land the ship, and
Yeah, just stick the
we
landing, and I think you're a okay. Awards across the boards. Despite like I love both the video game and the show, and I know you, but you're definitely gonna get this when it comes out either on 4K or Blu-ray, right? Like
yes,
same here.
I don't buy very many TV shows on
No,
4K or Blu-ray, but I mean this is worthy of it.
this is like next level stuff right here. I mean, and TV shows are shot more like the way movies used to be, and it's like you can do so much with long form narratives. And another thing you have to think of too is as far as adaptations, video games are video games, but you almost need all the other stuff for interactivity, and you feel like you're making the decisions, even though there's these characters. Well, this one you don't have that interactivity, so you have to think about it from story and characters, and this one does it brilliantly. Um, and I can't wait to see what happens next week. I'm actually going through a draw right now in sadness, thinking that we're near The
Yeah.
Last of Us already. Like, make next season like 13 episodes. I wouldn't mind. just
Yeah.
just do it. And I don't know. I really want to see it. And I really want to see people's reaction because like two is kind of like we kind of saw a little bit earlier in this season how people were handling the episodes, kind of like how they did Last of Us Part 2, but I really want to see how they adapt that. Um oh man. I can't say anything else. This is just an excellent show, and it was a great penultimate episode, a very creepy episode. And I just can't wait to see how it all ends. And also knowing that there is a Last of Us Part 2 now, what Easter eggs or breadcrumbs are they going to leave for Part 2 now that they know that there's a sequel? Like, I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to be structured or what they're going to hint at, given the story of Part 2.
Yeah, it's just sometimes it makes me cry seeing how they took a game and just perfected its adaptation. It's the it, again, I've been so burnt by video game adaptations in the past, and the fact that this is the one that they actually took the time with is just great for me.
Absolutely. It makes me feel like when I was like a Batman fan and I saw Batman Begins, the first Christian Bale Batman, and I was like, finally, they got it right. That's what I feel like here. It's like, finally. It's like, finally, an adaptation that doesn't make a mockery out of the source materials, people who understand it. I think also that has to go with not only Craig Mazin, but also Neil Druckmann being involved. I think it's kind of like Stephen King adaptations where like once he kind of got involved with the miniseries, they started feeling more close to the novels. You almost need that there, or somebody who gives a damn about the source material to like adapt it.
Yeah, where it just, I mean, like when you read about, like, when like weeks before the Halo show came out, your writers openly admit that they didn't do any research. It's not the greatest sign. And then we hear what's happened in The Witcher's writing room, and uh it's it's baffling how they hire these creators that know nothing about the game. And then, I mean, I don't know Ruben Fleischer personally, but it's clear him and the writers don't know much about Uncharted.
Oh
So
no.
it's just like, the fact that you guys, the fact that they constantly just hire random people from they find at a gas station to write these adaptations is baffling. But like here, it's like they got an Emmy award winning writer and the creator of the video game to write this show. And I think it shows that all you need is people that understand the source material and talented writers to make something work.
Absolutely. I cannot agree with you more. Like, absolutely. And I mean, this episode hit about 8.1 million viewers. I'm hoping it
Yeah.
hits 10 or more next week. It's going to take on the Oscars. I think it has a good chance the way the Oscars have been lately. But
Yeah.
I was like, I know more people that are excited for Last of Us than they are the Oscars. It's almost like Super Bowl Sunday all over again, but for the finale. And yeah, I am going to rewatch this show again from top to bottom. And oh, it just makes me feel good. I'm like, we don't deserve stuff this well done, and like this is awesome with the way adaptations have been. And this show, I can't wait to see what money is going to be thrown in season 2 because now that it's like a hit, I want to see what HBO is going to put into the second half. And no matter how tragic or violent or how polarizing it may be for the audience, I can't wait to see how they adapt that. And yeah, this show is just excellent all around. It's just it doesn't feel like it's corporate in the way of like let's get a popular IP, but we could have made something original and just put this IP's name on it. Like this feels like The Last of Us.
Yeah, it's just great. And like, even when they make it, changes, it's like I feel the changes that they make are to make the show better rather than detract from the source material.
Absolutely, and it's not like they just made a bunch of changes and didn't include. They still included, even though they cut out portions of the game, they still included about 96 to 97% of the video game right now. That's a lot more
Yeah.
than other adaptations. Like that's a lot more than Resident Evil or any other adaptations. Like it reminds me of like when I saw Mortal Kombat 1995 or like Silent Hill, where it's just like they got the video game and just translated it onto screen. But like sometimes you see that in video game movies, but then the writing kind of sucks, or the characters, or it's like kind of
Yeah.
cheesy. It's rare for it to be a good story. Like not only is it like the game, but it doesn't completely suck. It's actually good. It's actually great. That's a rarity. That's a rarity, and I hope studios learn the right things over The Last of Us. I'm kind of worried that they're going to just try to say, "Hey, let's make the next Last of Us," but then totally misunderstand what made The Last of Us. And
Yeah, if this was Sony and they made it after Last of Us 2, they'd be trying to adapt a lot of Last of Us 2 and
I
cram
I, la- I
something
laugh
in.
because like Sony, the president said, "I'm jealous in all the best ways that we didn't make a Last of Us," and I was like, "Oh, thank God that he didn't make
Thank
The Last of
God.
Us." There is a God.
Yeah.
There is a God out there. Like in our
Yeah.
timeline of stuff with IP and fan like pop culture, it's nice to see HBO take a stab at this. And I love HBO shows. They make wonderful dramas, and I was a huge fan of like the sequel they did with Watchmen, the Damon
Yes.
Lindelof. So like to see them do this with video games is just amazing, and it makes me wonder what else they could do. Uh, yeah, if they need any more Last of Us, I say reboot Uncharted on HBO after The Last of Us
Yeah.
2 is done. Just start rebooting everything on HBO. Like
Well, I mean, like,
seriously.
I think, yeah, Uncharted would make a better movie than a show because the set
Yeah.
pieces are so huge. And like,
Yeah.
those are the types of things I want to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
But again, the issue is the fact that they don't hire writers that understand the source material. We're like, and like we need a movie with the big set pieces, but also just take time with the source material. Like this show, where like it lets us sit with the emotional moments, and it's just it's the way like so many studio movies feel. It's like they just want to crank out uh these action movies, and like we, we hear that like Sony's doing a Ghost of Tsushima movie, and it's like I don't know how that's going to turn out
Oh God,
because
no.
I
Oh no. You're telling me they're gonna turn this into a movie that might be like Uncharted?
I hope it's nothing like Uncharted, but I mean the John Wick guy is directing, so maybe there's a chance.
They're gonna have the main story missions and just cut out all the side stuff.
Yeah.
Not you going into a village or getting armor upgrades. We're just gonna have the main stuff. Uh, oh my god.
Yeah, and I mean they have supposedly they yeah, they have I don't know. I haven't played Gran Turismo or whatever it's
It's
called,
just
but
like a basic like racing game, almost like Project Gotham Racing or something, or like Need for Speed, but it's like on the actual like racing circuit, not like illegal street racing or anything. Um, yeah, that movie looked really super artsy in a way with David Harbour and Orlando Bloom that Nicholas Ryden reference doing.
yeah, it's really uh,
I didn't even know there was a story because all you do is just race cars. Like it's just like a like almost like an arcade game where you just like race cars. So it's like I don't remember there being cutscenes or anything. So I don't know. You might not be able to go wrong with that one. uh,
I'm, I'm gonna see what because like I mean obviously we got Sonic 3, which I do enjoy the Sonic.
yeah,
uh
Sonic is good, but it also deals with like the human world and not entirely in the world of Sonic, even though it is the world of Sonic. But he's with us. Last of Us, I think I know people are like, there's no such thing as a video game curse. And I'm like, well, as far as exact adaptations, Last of Us is one of the few. It's a rare adaptation where it's exactly, like almost exactly.
oh yeah, we also have Super Mario Bros coming out this year.
Oh, that might not be bad. I don't know about Chris Pratt's voice, but that might not be bad. I always thought that an animated film would do good, especially after like Wreck It Ralph. Like they should just animate
Yeah.
it. Yeah, have you ever seen the '90s Super Mario Brothers?
No, but I'm
And
aware of a reputation.
if you want to see a crazy movie and wonder what the hell, watch that. It's not bad as far as like a sci-fi '90s movie. It's kind of cheesy, but as far as an adaptation goes, I can see why Nintendo is just like, nope, no more adaptations. They try to make like a dark science fiction Blade Runner esque Super Mario. They have that '80s song "Walk the Dinosaur" playing at like a nightclub with like Dennis Hopper in dinosaur makeup. It has like dinosaur fins on his head. You have Bob Hoskins and John
Yeah, and
Leguizamo. That's
yeah.
let me just tell you,
And then like
if you want to watch a movie so bad it's great, watch that one. Like it's almost like Chris Stuckman's Hilariosity reviews worthy. Like it really is. Like Batman
wow.
and Robin level stuff. Mortal Kombat Annihilation level stuff. But yeah, I just can't wait to see how they're gonna bring it home, and then to see the original Ellie as her mother next week is gonna be a extra bonus. And hope we get the
Yeah.
giraffe scene. I want to see the giraffe scene. That's been confirmed by one of the sources, but we'll see. I want to see the giraffe
Yeah.
scene.
Also, I'm looking at a list of video game adaptations coming out. I just remembered that they're doing reshoots on a Borderlands movie that Craig Mazin wrote the script for.
That's right. It has Jamie Lee Curtis in it. I remember that vaguely, like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they put it into reshoots earlier this year. Craig Mazin wrote the script for it, but when it comes to Craig Mazin, it's like he's an amazing writer with Chernobyl and Last of Us, but I don't know if he wrote the script back when he was just taking jobs or
Or if he
if
was like the
this is
original writer, like if he might have been
yeah,
like a rewrite, like that depends. Yeah, that's a good question.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Because a bit of a fun fact about Craig Mazin is that before he did Chernobyl, he just wrote a bunch of D-list comedies like the Hangover sequels and superhero movie. And then he kind of just reinvented himself with Chernobyl.
Darn, that's weird. It's like seeing the
Yeah.
Russos go from like You, Me, and Dupree to like Captain America, Winter Soldier or something. It's just like,
Yeah.
whoa. I actually kind of like superhero movie, even though it's like a stupid, silly movie. Like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, wow. Uh, Greatness
Yeah.
from small beginnings, you know.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, there's just a lot of I mean, they're doing a Horizon series for Netflix, which is gonna go. It's gonna go either way with how Netflix goes.
Yeah, I don't know with Netflix. If we have another bad adaptation, at least we'll always have The Last of Us. It's like with Batman movies. If there's any horrible Batman movies, we'll always have the Dark Knight trilogy, you know? It's just going to be like, oh, at least I have this when it was good. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just yeah. The other question: how many of these adaptations are even gonna?
Yeah, I don't know how many are going to happen. That's another thing too. That's the one bad thing about the current like movie TV but more so movies is that they just announce project 2 to 4 years in advance and it's just like half of them happen, the other half I don't know.
Star Wars.
Oh yeah, like Patty Jenkins and Kevin Feige's Star Wars that they announced like 3 years ago and then they're like we're canning that. Like you made a promo video and everything. It's like I guess they're just bored during COVID. Let's make like a Top Gun-esque Star Wars X-wing video with Patty Jenkins.
Yeah, and then we're just gonna put it on the shelf. We had to impress uh, our investors, so it's like
I just hope Taika Waititi's Star Wars is more like his
really
other films.
terrible.
I know it's like I don't know if we're getting more Love and Thunder or
Yeah,
like other stuff. It depends. At this point, I'm like, you
yeah,
know what? As much crap as I gave Ryan Johnson, I say let him do it. He might actually be better off if he doesn't have to continue from other people. If he just like let him do a trilogy on his own without other writers and with a vision, I think he could do a good job, honestly. Because there's a lot of good stuff in Last Jedi that people kind of overlook. I think, um, despite me not personally loving the film
yeah.
like a lot of people, like there's still some good moments in there that I think are going to age even better in retrospect. Somehow, I don't know. Somehow Palpatine has returned, you know. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, Last of Us is terrific, and yeah, everyone out there, if you're watching this, you could definitely check out our past talks on Joey's channel here at Joey's Movie Blog, and I hope you all tune in for the finale, and we're gonna have a lot to discuss next week.
Yeah.
I'm going through a draw. I've enjoyed just us talking to each other. We could add more guests, but it's The Last of Us, and it's the last of The Last of Us. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So
I've enjoyed it, and yeah, it's sad to see some of the outside politics projected onto the show. People need to look on it on its own without worrying about all the outside distractions, because I think it's been a superb show so far. And unless something changes, this is probably the best show of the year, like hands down. And it's going to be
Yeah.
hard. And maybe Succession season 4, the final season of Succession comes out.
Yes. So,
So
yeah, this is where we are going to end it. Fred, where can they find you at?
you can find me on YouTube at Frederick Lopez, Instagram at Fred Film Fanatic, and on Hive at Frederick Lopez.
I'm your host, Joey Strandberg. Thank you guys so much, as always, for watching. Stay tuned, and I'll see you guys next time.